Hi, boys and girls. All right, so we get to start lesson 17, which is dividing decimals. We are on page 347 in your book, so go ahead and open those up so we can take some notes. It starts off with, now that you know how to multiply with decimals, you'll learn how to divide with decimals. Use what you know to try to solve the problem. So we've got Mr. Kovich is preparing materials for a craft project. He needs to cut, we're going to underline that, 2 meters of string into pieces that are only 0.2 or 0.2 meter long. How many of those pieces can he make from 2 meters? So what we're going to do is I like to draw a picture first. So let's pretend I've got those 2 meters. Okay, so I've got, this represents the 2 meters. So this is 0, no meters, 1 meter, and 2 whole meters. Now it looks like we've got tenths because 2 is in the tenths place, and when we have tenths, that means we have to divide the 1 whole up into 10 pieces. So if I go ahead and do that, I've got 1, 2. Okay, so I've got 10 pieces on that side, and I'm going to go ahead and make 10 pieces on this side. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I've got that done. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to circle 0.2 of a meter to see how many of those pieces we can make. So I'm going to change my color just so we've got a good visual here. And I've got 0.2 here because I counted 1, 2. Then I've got another 0.2 and another 0.2 and another 0.2. One more 0.2. So I've got 5 on this side, which means I'll have 5 on this side. 2, 4, 5, which means all together I have 10 pieces that are all equal to 0.2. So that is actually my answer, is I've got 10 pieces in the 2 meters. Another way that we can think about that is if we were to have, let's say we've got how many 0.2 go into 2. So if we think about that, that means that our problem is actually 2 divided by 0.2. So again, we need to figure that out. So what divided by 0.2 gives me 2? And the answer to that is 10 divided by 0.2 would give me 2. So because multiplying by 10 changes the placement of the decimal point, the value of the digit 2 is in the tens place became 10 times greater, which is 2 ones. So that still tells us the answer that we can have 10 pieces. I think honestly thinking about it this way is a little bit trickier. I like to break them up and actually see how many pieces I have. All right, so if we move on to the next page, it says look back and see how we found, explain how we find how many 0.2 meter pieces are in 2 meters. So what we did was we made, don't forget, if you need to pause this so you can write it down, please do so. We made a model showing 2 meters. Then we broke it up into tenths because we are dividing by 0.2. Then we circled groups of 0.2, and our answer was how many groups we could make. It came out to be 10 pieces. All right, don't forget, pause right here if you need to. Looking ahead, so It says that we can look for patterns in division to see how dividing with whole numbers and dividing with decimals is alike and how it's different. So we're going to complete the quotients below to figure it out. So if we have 2 divided by 2, it's actually saying how many groups of 2 are in 2. We all know it's one group of 2 is in 2. Now we've got 2 wholes, and we're dividing it by 2/10. So remember, with decimals, when we've got a whole number, our decimal is actually still there. It's just at the end. So what they did down here is they just scooted that decimal over 1. And remember, each place value is worth 10 times more than the next. So this is actually 10 times smaller. So if I have 2 and I break it up into 2/10 pieces, I would have 10 pieces because the pieces are smaller. Now the pieces are getting even smaller, so that means I'm going to have even more pieces. So that means 2 divided by 2/100 is actually equal to 100. All right, moving on. If we use these patterns to do the same thing, it's actually the same thing. So it says 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2/10, so 2. I'm breaking those up into little pieces of 2/10. That means I have more of those pieces, so I have 10 now. And then 2 divided by 2/100 is 100 little pieces. Okay, down here it says, how does the quotient compare to the dividend? So our quotients over here compared to the dividend. So actually, they're actually getting bigger. So 10 is bigger than 2. 100 is bigger than 2. And the only instance where it's not as big is when you divide it by its same number. And we know that comes out to be 1. So it says when the divisor is greater than 1. So when the divisor is less than 1, our pieces are actually getting bigger. So we're going to write when the divisor, this number, is greater than 1, our quotient is smaller. When our divisor is less than 1, our quotient, ooh, I can't spell today, starts getting bigger. Not better, bigger. All right. And it says reflect. About 2 meters, or 2 meters divided by 0.2 meters, why is the quotient greater than the dividend when dividing by a decimal less than 1? So why does our answer end up being less than 1? And it's because our divisor is less than 1. So because our divisor is less than 1, comma, our quotient right above there starts to get bigger. All right, now I want you to take a couple of these notes today in your book. These will be part of your notes that we're looking for. And this is just examples that you guys can see so that you guys are a little bit more prepared for your homework. So we've got this thing here, and it's called inverse operations. Inverse means opposite. So if I have division, the inverse of that is multiplication. So it says, think about what you know about multiplication and division. Fill in each box, use words, numbers, and pictures, show as many ideas as you can. So up here, we're going to write out these sentences. Multiplication, combines equal groups to find a total. Division is the opposite. Division separates a total into equal groups. All right, so for example, let's say I've got these lovely dots, and you guys can draw these too. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got 5, 1. So I'm making an array, a 4 by 3 array. So we all know, kind of a wonky array, sorry. 3 times 4 equals, 3 times 4 equals 12. We also know that 4 times 3 equals 12. But we know more than that, because what we actually know, and this is kind of cool, is that we know the opposite of that. If 3 times 4 equals 12, then 12 divided by 3 equals 4. And we also know that 12 divided by 4 equals 3. And that's all the inverse operation really is. So let's say, I'm going to make an example here, all right? Let's say, and I'm going to need a smaller little line here. So we're going to make a number line. Okay, and we're going to divide it into 4 pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's an awful 4 pieces. I'm doing it real quick. I'm going to slow down here and do that again. And I also am going to make that in black so I can see a little bit better. Ooh, that's better. Okay. All right, so I've got 4 pieces here, right? So if I were to have 5 times 0.8 equals 4, that also means that 4 divided by 0.8, anyone guess what that is? Da, 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 5. And then we can prove it to you, because if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, if I have 4 holes and I divide it by 0.8, which means I'd have to do 8/10. So instead of doing 8/10, I'm going to do fifths in here and count by those. Or, I'm sorry, I'm still doing 10s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. So I'm going to count by 8s and see how many groups I make. I bet you it's going to be 5. I have 4 holes. I'm dividing it by 8. So this is 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. There's one group. Then I'm going to do it again. 2, 4, 6, 8. There's a second group. 2, 4, 6, 8. There's a third group. 2, 4, 6, 8. The fourth group, and 2, 4, 6, 8. The fifth group, finally. All right, and then over here, where my big old head is, I'd like you to please write 2 divided by 0.5 equals something. And I want us to write 4 times 0.5 equals 2. So if we know that 4 times 0.5, or 4 times a half equals 2, that means that 2 divided by a half equals 4. This is our inverse operations. We can switch these numbers around to make sure that they make sense. So if I have 2 holes. So I've got 2 holes. I'm going to divide those both into halves. So this is worth 0.5. Let's see, 0.5. And this is worth 0.5. And this is worth 0.5. This is worth 0.5. 4 of these equal 2. But if I have 2 holes and I divide them up into 5/10, I would have 4 5/10. So it's just saying that your inverse operation is going to help you when you do this. Okay. Go ahead, and you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3 questions for the check your answers, show your work. Now, boys and girls, we've gone over a couple different things. We've done pictures, we've done arrays, we've done inverse operation. So whatever you do for problem number 3, You're going to have to show me a different way to do it for problem number 4. Okay, so it's just you showing me and proving to me that you know what you're doing. And that is all I have for you today. Let me know if you need any help. Let Miss Suba or Miss Kelsey know too. All right, goodbye.